In an unprecedented move, the Reserve Bank of India announced yesterday that it is going to give the central government an additional 1.76 lakh crore rupees. This money is huge. Such a move is unprecedented. The RBI board actually accepted the recommendations made by the Bimal Jalan committee and decided that such an amount should be transferred. So of the total amount that will be transferred now, about 1.23 lakh crore will be the surplus or the dividend earned by the RBI in 2018 and 2019. About 52,000 crore will be the excess provision, a one-time transfer from the central bank from the Reserve Bank to the central bank's coffers. Now RBI in a way is actually giving up on its entire earning in the year 2018-2019 and giving that money to the government. That has raised concerns. Remember, it has been a point of contention between the RBI, and the RBI previously said, no, we don't want to give the money. In fact, the issue has led to a tug of war between the Reserve Bank of India previous governors and the Modi government since the time of Raghuram Rajan. In fact, both Raghuram Rajan and Urjit Patel said that we do not want to give the money. And such a move could actually hurt the Reserve Bank of India. It is unprecedented, it should not happen. And warned the government against the transfer of this amount. In fact, the issue escalated to a point that Urjit Patel, previous governor of RBI, actually resigned. His untimely resignation is attributed to the difference that he had with the central government on this very issue. In fact, former RBI Governor Viralacharya went to an extent of warning the central government that if it continues to persist in asking for this money, asking for RBI surplus, it could result in a situation like that happened in Argentina. In Argentina, there was a transfer of about $6.6 billion of the central bank's reserve to the national treasury. That incident later sparked off one of the worst constitutional crises in Argentina. So governors were concerned, deputy governor was concerned, many financial experts were concerned. So let's quickly walk you through why were they concerned, what are the concerns that they've raised. Now the money that is going to be transferred will be transferred from RBI's contingency plan or the contingency fund. This is unprecedented and has raised many eyebrows. Remember, this hasn't happened in many central banks. Such a transfer of money hasn't happened in many banks. The contingency fund or the money is essentially the money that RBI has to deal with any financial emergency that may just happen in the future, such as the financial emergency or the recession of 2008. The opposition party says, or rather alleges, that the RBI board was forced or pressurized by the union government to take the radical step that it did. So the opposition obviously alleging that the RBI board did not take this decision on their own and they were rather pressurized by the central government of India. Now, if you look at the contingency fund that the RBI has, currently it stands at about 6.8% of the RBI's total asset, and after this announcement, it is going to be reduced to 5.5%. So there's going to be a dip in the CRB, which is the contingency risk buffer, to the tune of 5.5%, something that Bimal Jalan committee said is all right. They gave a go-ahead for it. So while many detractors, many opponents, many people who are against the government are saying that this is wrong on government's part, remember, the RBI is not doing something extraordinary. In fact, it's only following the due procedure. The Bimal Jalan committee that was set up after the differences between the central bank and the government recommended such a move. So the RBI board essentially simply implemented the recommendation of the Bimal Jalan committee. Many believe, in fact, that this money is not going to be pocketed by the government. The government will use this money towards funding of public sector banks. Now remember, Finance Minister just last week announced an additional infusion of about 70,000 crore capital infusion into banks that are currently struggling. I would also like to remind my viewers about the health of Mudra loans. And I remember about 3.1 lakh Mudra loans were sanctioned or granted between 2018 and 2019, most of which is now in NPA. About 16,000 crore is NPA. So there is financial burden in the banks, there is liquidity crunch, and at such a time, this money is much needed and could be utilized by the government towards public sector banks to ease the financial burden, the financial pressure that they're currently facing. The surplus could also go towards MSME banks, which have been giving out loans to small and medium enterprises. So the government, in fact, is going to use this money towards public good. While Finance Minister has decided not to divulge any further details on how the fund could be utilized, experts say that this will only help the economy come out from the situation that it's currently in. While many experts continue to question whether such a move could hurt the autonomy of the RBI.